As we look at March data, I think one of the hardest hitters is seeing how many properties actually sold under asking price. It's 56% of those that sold in the city of Fond du Lac in March, single family, sold under asking price. So if we look back at 2024 and 2023, this happened similar in percentage about one time each of those years. So 1 month each year. Is this going to be our 1 month for 2025? I'm not really sure. I think it's going to be something that is interesting to watch. Also, if we flip that script and look how many sold at or above, then that is 44% for the month of March that sold at or above. And if we look back at our past couple Marches, those were in the 60 somethings percent. So about 20% less than the past couple years. What's also interesting too is if we look at our trend so far this year, January, February, January and February were both in the 30 something percent for selling under asking price. So March jumping up to 56% is just interesting. We are heading into this spring market here, and I'm still running around showing houses and definitely running into multiple offer situations for sure. So it's just interesting to see this data set, and I think it's something that we should definitely be keeping an eye on. Then, for that quarter ish of houses that did sell over asking price, how much over did they go for? Well, they were all different. There was no dominant category. So, from 1K to 15K, there wasn't even a number that happened twice. 1K, 2K, 7K, 8K, 11K, all of that, all different. So nothing specifically dominant when you sit down and try to write an offer of, oh, what's normal right now, huh? All over the board, 1 to 15. And then what was the hottest price point for March? Well, it was the 400s, and those were new construction spec builds, and those went a little bit over asking price. And those were maybe some small upgrades that added to that price. And then also for existing, the 200s. When I look at how quickly houses accepted offers of the ones that sold in March, I see that 1 week and 4 months are the two most dominant categories. So when I'm looking at this, I start at 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, 2 month, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months. And I haven't had to go that far in a while, or maybe there's a one off, but there was a pretty big spread from 1 week all the way up to 7 months. And just the two categories that had the most were accepting an offer in around 1 week and accepting an offer in around 4 months. So that's interesting, and just interesting to note how big that spread is compared to usually going up to like 3 months or maybe four. So just something to note. Then, how many properties accepted an offer within a month ish time? So that's pretty much anywhere from 1 week up to a month and a half ish. And that is 52%. So, pretty much about half of the houses are taking around 1 month or less. And then the other half of the houses took about 2 to 7 months. So, you are 50-50 chance of ending up in either of those categories. And we hope we are in the first one. Then how many houses are taking price reductions? So of all the solds in March, 44% of them did. So a little less than half. And the most we're seen in the 400s. And you say, wait a second. I thought the 400s they sold over. Okay, so here's what happened. So the three properties that sold um, in the 400s, or how that worked, is there were three properties listed in the 400s and they took price reductions. One came all the way down into the 300s. So when I grabbed data before, it looked like it sold in the 300s. So it ended up in the 300s category because it was 370 sold at 360. So that was where that happened in selling under, but it really started at like 420. And then the other two in the 400s were like 435 and they ended up in the 420s, and then they ended up selling above that final list price, which looked like then it was selling over. So that's something interesting in how data can skew sometimes too. And that's why really digging in as the human brain helps us better understand it than just running things with a data set. So it's good to go in there and analyze it and see what is going on. What's the inventory situation? How many houses are on the market to purchase? Well, when I pulled the data today, that was 68 houses in the city of Fond du Lac that are on the market, whether they are under contract or not. And this is very in line with last year's data, almost the exact same number. And it's only up a couple houses from last month. So, not really a huge growth in inventory like we like to see. Available versus under contract. So, of these 68 houses, 31% of them are fully available, no offer on them, and then 69% are under contract. So, in that way, that does look good for sellers still to show that 69% of them are under contract. But of these fully available homes, the 31%, two-thirds of them have been on the market for 2+ weeks. So there is that smaller chunk that is starting to sit, and we are seeing that play out in our data a little bit here. So, what can your money buy for you? Let's talk about affordability and median home price. For the month of March, it stayed consistent in the lower quarter of the 200s and was 217K. So, I pulled an example. A house that was closest to it for the month of March was 216K. And that was 650 South Hickory Street in the city of Fond du Lac. This was built in 1910. It's a two-story property, four bed, 1.5 bath with a two-car garage. It's 1512 square feet and has no finished basement space on a very good sized city lot of 0.35 acres, especially for an older home. And it has an updated kitchen and flooring that you can see from the pictures. What does a payment look like for a median priced home of 217,000? Well, if we do a standard 30-year loan, we take our interest rate right now of around 6.4%, and we put about 5% down. That's about $11,000 down. You end up with a payment of about $1,290 a month. What's important to note is that this is just your principal and interest. There is taxes, insurance, and PMI on top of that. It's also important to talk to your lender about your individual situation because your interest rate or amount down may vary. But in general, this is what we're looking at right now. For the low end, I did pull second to the bottom because the first one was just a complete fixer upper. But let's talk about 295 East Ninth Street, which sold for $80,500. This is an 1890 build. So if you watch these, you notice the pattern that our low end is always these super old homes. It is a 1.5 story, two bed, one bath, one car garage, only 981 square feet on zero point 0.0 acres, so extremely small yard, basically just the house. It's on a crawl space, but you can see that we have an updated kitchen here, and there's also updated flooring through a lot of the property, as well as some fun hardwoods. For the high end, I pulled out the new builds at the top and went for the highest price existing home here, which was 950 Carriage Lane that sold for 375K. This was a 1994 build. It's a two-story home, four bed, two full bath, two half bath, three-car garage. It has 2,024 square feet above grade and another 624 square feet finished in the basement on just about a quarter acre at 0.24. This has the late 90s, early 2000s look. It has not been updated in your kitchens, in your baths, in your woodwork. It looks like the 1994 build that it is. So, what should we be watching? The inventory. It hasn't really spiked up yet like we've been hoping to see. So, it's something to keep an eye on, see if it does, see if it doesn't. Also, looking at March data, it was the most sold under asking price in a while, being at that 56%. And does this become a trend? Is this a one off? Paying attention to that. Longer to sell. Like I said, my data set, I was calculating all the way out to 7 months. So that was interesting and also something to see. Does it become a pattern? Is it more of a one off? Then world and USA happenings. Obviously, some of these policies where tariffs were just enacted, and we will see how they play out, how they impact our economy and the housing market. So, check the caption for a summary of everything, and I hope this gave you good insight into the city of Fond du Lac housing market. I'm Bethany Warnches with Addison Jones. If you are looking to get in touch for selling or buying, you can reach out and email me, or whatever social media platform that you are seeing this on, you can send me a message as well.